Welcome back to StrategyCast, the show where we uncover the strategic moves that drive today's smartest brands. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avocet Communications. If your product is highly technical, scientific, or deep in R&D, your biggest marketing risk isn't reach, it's clarity. Today's guest, Jen Scholten, is a product marketer working in the aerospace sector, where translating complex ideas into business outcomes isn't just helpful, it's the job. We kick things off with her approach to aligning messaging to real business goals and why marketers who skip this step often lose both the audience and the sale. Welcome to the show, Jen.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this today.
Oh my gosh, you are such a rock star when it comes to this sort of stuff. We've got a little visitor in the background here too, which is fantastic.
We do. He's hearing everybody else. So
Yeah, I love it. Before we get into really diving into the topic of the day, tell us a little bit more about your journey.
yeah, so I am a product marketer at heart, and I always put product in front of that because I really believe that if doesn't matter what your product is, you can work in any sector. And as someone who loves to learn about new things and learn about new technologies and new trends, I don't like to be pinned down. So I'm a product marketer at heart. I have worked in sectors spanning from fashion to music to dog food. And most recently, I have absolutely fallen in love with the space sector and the space technology that's coming out of it.
Oh my gosh, and talk about complex compared to dog food and fashion. And I think those skills that you build in CPG and retail set every marketer up to success when they translate over to B2B.
I really actually agree with that. When you're growing up and you're doing your early jobs, someone always said you should always work in food and beverage. You should always be like a server or a bartender. And I think in marketing, you should always work in one of those, grinding, sales is the top line, marketing jobs like a CPG or retail media. So I think I definitely learned a lot of very, very important skills and traits in those careers before bringing them over to the space sector and deep tech.
Well, I tell you, they're lucky to have you. That's for sure, because I love your thinking. I studied you on LinkedIn quite a bit before inviting you to appear on the show, and you're really a standout marketer. So I have to say that. So congratulations on what you're achieving in a very, very complex world. Let's dive in to really some of the starting points when it comes to marketing that is built for business impact. And at the bottom line, this is why we're all here, is marketing has to ultimately affect top line revenue. There are a lot of different ways to make that happen, but it's all about top line revenue. If something that you find is outside of the strategic lanes that you've established, how do you end up managing that and handling it?
So as someone that is extremely competitive and extremely strategic, I remind myself to breathe. It's not the end of the world. I think definitely depending what size of business you're in, either, startup all the way up to a prime or somewhere in the middle and a scale up, stuff happens. Things happen, as your team's going to grow, people are going to start doing things that might not be totally in your plan. Our job as marketers is to stay as aligned as possible with the business leaders of our company and make sure that we're giving those guidelines to keep people, on the right track. But people are going to step out and it's not going to ruin your entire plan. I think the biggest thing to remember with marketing is it's not a one and done. You're not going to have a viral moment and it's going to change your business. It's all about consistency and repetition. So someone that jumps out of line, it's okay. Make sure you bring them back and go back to that repetitive messaging that you need them to have. And I mean, it's going to be a one-off, and chances are it won't hopefully be a viral moment. And if it is, then spin it. Spin
Well,
it.
I think the tendency is a squirrel chasing, right? And it's and, you know, sometimes, I mean, I just feel marketing is like a good bottle of wine, right? It just gets better with time and time and time and time, because the experiences that we're creating along the way for a given product or company are, you know, you're just more and more and more entrenched into it. So a lot of time, this nimbleness really, which is what you're talking about, can lead to something that is on strategy, but not in the plan. And I think that's why we always have a slush fund or the
Mhm.
contingency or let's give it a shot. You know, the mindset that the C-suite provides us is, no, we always need to be trying something new. So those sort of things are great. But knowing when it's a good idea and when it isn't, I think is the real test.
I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, and having those sort of, wiggle room contingency plans, like you said, are gonna be key in making sure that, you have that test, you have that ability to play around and figure it out. Just like engineering, just like, the business areas, we all have to take risks, and you have to take risk in marketing because,
Right.
especially in an industry or in a sector like deep tech, which is so so over encompassing, or some more specific like space, it's evolving every day. You can't apply marketing from 2 days ago to marketing that to technology that is being invented in front of you. You just can't. So you have to be nimble. You have to be willing to try things. And sometimes the best ideas aren't going to come from your own brain. Sometimes they're going to come from someone else who took a risk and thought it was great. And
Well,
yeah.
we love that when it happens too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Fantastic. How do you structure marketing plans so that you know they are specifically and directly aligned with the business goals?
So I am someone who is very annoying and I'm very persistent. And I have been very lucky to work in mostly startups or scale ups. So kind of smaller companies. So this would really apply for them. But I demand time with my C-suite. I think that it is so important to sit next to your decision makers, your business leaders, and check in with them. I had a company a few years ago that we used to do a business model canvas. I'm not sure if everyone knows what that is. It's a very simple tool that you learn in business school. I didn't go to business school, but someone taught me about it. And it's kind of like a workflow through your business. And a lot of companies do it once when they start their company and then they just kind of like continue on. We used to do it weekly and it was
Ah,
so fast to go
that.
through. But it was so important just to check in of like, wait, are our customers still are they still on this platform? Are they still engaging with us here? Are we still answering the same need, or have we pivoted? And has somewhere else in the organization pivoted that now marketing needs to pivot? And so I demand that time. I do these activities with so many of my companies. I think they're fun, but I think they're also really important to make sure that the whole organization, especially in the scale up stage, especially in that growth stage, where new people are coming in, they're gonna have ideas, they're gonna be excited,
Uh,
just to make sure that we're all working together. We all should be supporting each other. Everything in business is a support role. So,
I
um
love it. It's great. I'm going to have to pull up that canvas as a matter
yeah.
of fact.
And it's common for people to be, "Oh, no, 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 I already know my business. I know what I'm doing," and just be persistent and say, "It's gonna take a few minutes, it'll be fun, let's just do it."
You get too close to it. I mean,
We do.
yeah, I think that's why this is really important. You know, the the plan is only as good as the story it tells, right?
I agree.
And I think messaging is one of those areas that really is not done well.
No.
And I think the more complex, the harder from the standpoint of they want to talk about what it does and how it works,
Yeah.
really not focused on the impact that we can make from a messaging standpoint. And this is not an unequivocal, and I'm totally going out on a limb by saying this, but I truly do think that 90% of marketing gets it wrong at this intersection.
I
That
agree.
it is, I mean, it is make it or break it. And we love it when we get hired by a client and we're taking a look at the industry and we're like, this is going to be easy because 90% of what the industry is doing is wrong.
You're
Is
like, "Keep doing it, everybody. It's
yeah, and we just want the time to really be able to stand out and make the impact, right? But
Mhm.
I mean, it's why is it happening? Why are smart marketers allowing the wrong message in the market?
Forgive me to all my beautiful smart marketers that I love. I genuinely think marketers they don't respect themselves as part of the business.
Yeah.
They don't give themselves the credit that they deserve to be in the room to have impact on business decisions. And so I think a lot of really, really brilliant people are given guidelines or given sort of KPIs that they haven't written themselves. Uh,
Right.
and and I don't think that's necessarily, this might be very controversial. I think that's a marketer's problem. I think we need
I
to
was just going to ask you if it's
uh,
cultural or marketer.
I think it's marketer, and I
Wow.
think it comes from this huge shift that's happened over the last few decades of like what marketing used to be and what marketing is now. It used to be very segmented. There was no way to kind of track a marketing campaign's effect because, it was static. It wasn't dynamic. It wasn't digital. We didn't have the algorithms that we have now to completely connect what a campaign is doing.
Yeah.
And because of that sort of shift to digital and that shift to analytics and that shift to, direct performance, we then went through this like scared mode of like, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot. We need to prove these weird analytics and we need to prove these. So we kind of put ourselves into this like little box of we actually answer to analytics versus no, we answer to the business. At the end of the day, we are a core part of this business being successful. Um, and, analytics are cool. They're a great way to track a performance of something, but that is not that should not, and you need to make sure that that is not the definition of your success in your role.
I
Uh,
agree.
and
You
that's
know,
something that I think we do to ourselves. I think I've seen a lot of people in deep tech, incredible marketers who have almost made themselves insignificant because they've set that expectation of, here's my success rate, here's my performance based on analytics. And especially in deep tech, like we know, lots of these things move off of needing social media. They move off of needing those analytics platforms because they have, you know, government customers that are going to be their sole customer. And
yeah.
they kind of make themselves insignificant. And I think that's a big bummer.
It is a bummer. And there's an interesting twist to this regarding messaging. And there's been a resurgence in the need for strong creative.
Mhm.
And I think analytics really drove a lot of marketers to just get a lot of creative done very, very quickly without strategy and just shove it out. And my father, who started this agency in 1980, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but when he was finally saying, okay, I've got to retire, Lori, it was this, and he's a creative. It was this intersection of the value of creative and the clients putting value on creative at the bottom of the totem pole because they wanted everything done so quickly and so responsive. So what would have taken, a month to develop a great campaign concept and strategy was now taking 48 hours. And I
Yeah.
think we did ourselves a disservice. The industry did everyone, including the clients, a disservice. And there's this resurgence coming back. And a lot of it has to do with strategic storytelling, the messaging that we pushed aside just to, graphically create interest or, deliver an ad, that was interactive. And that's what we felt was going to get someone interested instead of the words and the concept behind it. That is really what the selling was all about.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I think we gave in too quickly to defining our roles based off of,
Yeah.
emerging technology like the social media platforms, which I mean, they changed us, right? I mean, social media hands down changed marketing as an industry, but they changed humanity in terms of attention span. And with that changed our jobs to all of a sudden bend to fit that. So, but I do agree that we're seeing, across all sectors, we're seeing that big storytelling coming back. We're seeing larger campaigns that are more planned out and are a little bit more strategic. I wouldn't say 100% strategic, but we are seeing it. And we're
Yeah.
seeing that vision come back, which I think is really important is,
So too. I love it.
yeah, it's that forward vision of, this isn't just about selling clothes to you today. It's about selling clothes to you or selling whatever to you for a lifetime. We want to be a brand that's in your closet for the rest of, I should keep going back to fashion because I'm thinking of the Beyonce one, but
Right there with you.
the Levi's campaign. But it's just, they're starting to sell that vision and that longer brand loyalty again, which you can't get that on social media.
Well, and this is so interesting, right? Because I think trust is at an all-time low globally. People don't trust the media, they don't trust NGOs, they don't trust government. The one entity, if you look at like a quadrant of, trust being in the upper right-hand corner, this is an Edelman report that was done recently. Business has the opportunity to create trust. And it does not matter if you're selling a pair of Levi's jeans, or you are selling a very, very complex space solar array. The trust is fundamental.
Yeah.
And messaging is what ultimately helps bridge us that and get us there. So if you're too complex and if the message isn't hitting, how can marketers test to make sure that this will resonate or not?
So first, I would take one step back from that. I'm sorry, I said I would be concise, but I think one of the biggest problems that we have in these deep tech or in these, complex sectors, as you've kind of called them, as marketers, is that we assume that everybody needs to know and needs to care.
The human element.
And they don't. We constantly, and I hear this across the map from all sorts of deep tech or complex sectors of, people need to know how important this is.
Right.
And I give this example. My house is full of batteries from AA to C to D. I couldn't tell you how a battery works. I could not tell you how a battery makes my camera function. I have no clue. And yet I buy them. I believe in them. I trust them. They're all over my house. I'm an active participant in buying batteries, and most of the world is.
Yeah.
And so I think, and I don't see Duracell going out telling me how a battery functions.
Right.
Right? They show me a cute little bunny that shows me that it's going to power my thing forever. And that's it.
Right.
Right? And then they went after the consumer market where they said, you know what? Build your products. You can build more innovative products if you put batteries in them. They can be animated. And that's where I think the deep tech sort of area on the marketing side wastes time. I don't think that they have it wrong, but they're wasting time and they're wasting resources, and they're not going to get results for their companies that they need because they're too focused on explaining why it's all important to the person who it actually isn't important to.
Yeah.
The science isn't important. It's the application that is. And a lot of deep tech is infrastructure.
Yeah.
No one likes to hear that, but a lot of deep tech, a lot of the really cool science stuff that I work on, the space technology is so cool, but it's infrastructure because the person that I'm telling about it doesn't actually need to know.
Well, and
enable something else to happen that should be marketed to them, and then they buy it, and that creates the business stream. So when I look at, or when I answer your question of, how do we complain or not complain? How do we explain complex technologies to our customers? You have to identify your customers, not the world. It's not the average person. It's people who are going to buy it, and they need to understand that it's not about the widget that you have. It's about what you're going to enable in that huge stream down here that a lot of people don't understand yet. And so that's, I think, the more creative, and that to me is the more fun and visionary explanation, because it's not something that I need the world to understand. It's something that I need a group of people.
yeah.
It's marketing. The smaller the group of people that you get to talk to, the better you can do it.
Well, and what complicates all this, right, is that let's take a look at that small group of people. At any given point in time, 5% of them are probably raising their hands and saying, I'm going to buy. So how are you taking care of the 95% that aren't ready to buy? And that's where, the branding that you brought up earlier, the trust barometer is important.
Mhm.
All these things, making sure that you've got a 24/7, 365-day approach, this always on approach to marketing.
Yep.
So when the hand is raised, they've got some brand alignment towards you already. In a perfect world, they say, okay, let's give them a call. That's not a perfect, scenario. but at least they've got some knowledge of the brand and what you do to feel good about you, to just then say, okay, let's have a conversation. And that is where a lot of brands don't have the the stableness of a strong plan in place to make sure that they are on all the time. You can't just have a website and
Mhm.
expect that if we build it, they will come. It just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. And I'm going to steal the words from my current boss, who I absolutely admire, Jeff Thornburg. He just said this the other day. It's your people.
Yeah.
It's 100%. It's your people. I do probably 50% brand marketing, 50% people marketing.
Yeah.
It is so important because brand loyalty, as you kind of explained, it's low. There's too many brands in the world nowadays. There's too much access to too many different things. There's too much access to even discovery of new
Yeah.
things to really like lean into a company voice owning a relationship. It's just not realistic.
Yeah.
But people build real bonds and real networks. And that's how you're going to be top of mind when, that person who moves into a position of potentially purchasing power, um, and especially in deep tech or in these complex systems where your pipeline is years.
Yeah.
You're pitching a product that is a hypothetical. And by the time you get to, a proven product that is ready to hit the manufacturing lines and get to the customer, or, in some cases, the warfighter, that can be 2, 3, 4 years where you have to build confidence from this day. You have to build confidence because you need to have that confidence in order to keep going. And you need to have those customer touch points on a business side to make sure that you're still building a product that they need and that they want.
Right.
And that's people.
It is people.
That's not a LinkedIn message saying, "Hey guys, are you still liking us?" Like, that's your people.
It is, and that is, such a huge portion of everything we do from a marketing standpoint. How do you create internal advocacy in those situations?
Internal advocacy as in me.
Yeah, getting how you want these, incredible team members to represent the brand.
So, it's hard, and I think, again, I go back to some marketers and lots of marketers that I know even, they don't give themselves enough credit as you are an authority in a
Yeah.
business. You are impacting the business success. So I think we need to get over that whole thing and really own it that we are important to the business's success. But outside of that, I really take a lot of time to do training with my teams. I'm a very logical person. I'm a very strategic person. I do not do things without understanding why I'm doing them. And
Right.
you'll see it, and my boss will see it sometimes where he'll be like, "Jen, can you just do this?" And I'm like, you'll see my brain, like my face go blank of just like, I don't understand why I'm doing it and it's killing me. I'm gonna do it because I was told, but I
Yeah.
don't understand. So I maybe project that on a lot of people, and so I really take the time to explain to them, this is why we're doing this. This is the impact. This is why we don't do this way. This is why we do it this way instead. And a lot of people really resonate with strategy, and when they understand why it's doing something, they're more likely to buy into it. It's the same with investing. It's the same with, finances and money and what happened in the shift with digital finance stuff. People
Right.
had transparency to understand it. You could
Yeah.
understand trading because you could see it. When you did this, something else happened. And it all of a sudden made, financial literacy boom, compared to the traditional models, which were trust your hometown banker, give them money, and all will be okay.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the transparency and taking the time to explain that strategy and the why behind it.
Well, and then once they understand, I mean, the more inclusive we are, the better
Mhm.
the better the program's going to be. There's no doubt about it. And it has this mushroom effect. I mean, simply put, if we've got an elevator speech and everyone in the company's using that same elevator speech and instead of playing, telephone to see how it translates down to 100 people downstream, the amplifying effect of that is so much greater.
Yeah.
And it's very raw sense. That's why we need everyone, on
Yeah.
the same boat, if you will.
And I would preface all of that with, you're still gonna have to do hand holding.
Oh, yeah.
You then have to remember that this is not their job, that it's not their heads are full with things that they have to focus on. So you're still then gonna have to do a lot of hand holding, but it at least helps in having them be slightly more proactive. And
Yeah.
something, like, tactical that I would say, even my most recent team we worked on is LinkedIn.
Mm.
You know, don't share with a comment, just share, just repost on it. And the difference between one is that you basically segment one, you cut it apart from its original post, which doesn't drive people back to our page or to, growing our community. Versus the other one just brings that post and puts it in front of a whole new group of people. And
Right.
so when you're talking about, growing your exposure to something, some announcement, you don't want to cut it. You don't want to cut the feet out. Don't cut the roots, right? Keep the
Exactly.
roots there and just share it. Comment on the post. Put a
Yeah.
comment on the post. Do not put it there. And I mean, even that took a few, I don't know, posts to get going, but now they get it. And we did a lot of explaining
And
here.
training.
Here's the potential difference of
Uh,
what we're doing here and why we're doing it this way. So, things as simple as that, you do have to explain to them why they're doing it.
yeah. I want to shift our conversation a little bit to talk about how marketers lose strategic ground.
Mhm.
And, I think there are a lot of reasons for that. Maybe, the first campaign out of the chute didn't hit. Maybe the intel isn't what they thought it was.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe the competition's doing a better job. Maybe the product's failing. Maybe you've been working on something so long that you're not staying relevant. There's all sorts of reasons for that. We have a client, an awesome client that we've worked with for 17 years. And we must always stay ahead of the game with them when it comes to strategy. We must always never reinventing, but always, establishing trend, establishing newness instead of always feeling as though we're behind. And
Mhm.
so there's all these reasons is right. But what do you feel causes these very strategic teams to really lose the foothold and, be looked at more as an internal vendor?
Managing expectations.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. Again, I do believe that this is sort of us doing it to ourselves. And it might not be the marketer that is there now, but as we know, and I hope most people know, and maybe you don't, but marketing, especially in the leadership roles, is one of the highest churn rates of a high level job. So, that culture, that marketing culture could have been set by, four predecessors before you. So it's really important when you are in your process of coming into a new company or even in the hiring, demand to be a part of that executive team or demand to be a part of the business side and not just, an internal team like you're kind of mentioning. And then mm, d- manage expectations. And I think most business people, I won't say all, but I think most people understand strategy and understand when you talk from a place of, this is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it. Here's what I expect to happen. And then own it when it doesn't work, but don't own it with no explanation of why.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing, right? We see so many people be like, well, that didn't work. Okay. And some companies are like, okay, that didn't work. But you better believe your budget's going to be smaller next year.
Yeah.
Or they're going to stop thinking of you as so strategic next year. Or they're going to have a bit more input next year. Or your BD team is going to come in and
Yeah.
start pushing your narrative, which is always, that can have a major impact.
And I think, establishing expectations up front. We're working with an awesome client right now. They've never had a strong marketing program. They hired a CMO, went through a national search. We got hired. And this company doesn't, it's a part of a larger brand, but they don't have brand awareness right now at all. Everyone at the buyer's table is very new to marketing.
Mhm.
So we've got a 3-year horizon to build the brand and get it launched. And then the 3-year horizon starts to really getting that awareness where we know it needs to be so that that 95% is kind of shifting. And, if 10%, if 5% of buyers are always looking at that, then, we're at the top of the totem pole when it comes to buyer decision. That's the length of time I think people lose sight of.
Oh, I definitely agree. And again, that's the expectation that it might not be you in your role, but somebody in that organization over its existence has set that expectation, that it's going to be quick results and quick turnaround. Um, I'm a very aggressive marketer. I'm a very aggressive, goals. I set very aggressive KPIs, but I also own up when we're not going to reach one. I don't shy away. I don't change that KPI. I mark that I didn't hit it, but I can usually explain why, or I can,
Piece of data then, you know what I mean?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think so many people are scared of failure, and I don't know everyone's organization, so maybe that's correct, but we're so afraid of failure that we make excuses versus owning it and giving rationale.
Right.
You don't need to excuse
That's
it. You need to
point.
add rationale so that you're moving forward with more strategy, more data, like you said. Um, you know, I'm not shit happens.
Well,
You can't control it all.
yeah.
But you need to be able to pivot with strategy for the next move. And I think that's what, not just marketers, I think lots of people are too scared to just own up to it and say, yeah, I'm not going to hit this goal this
It
month.
worked. Yeah. What we
Didn't
did
work.
work.
Yep.
This is why we think it didn't work, and we're not going to do it again, or we're going to pivot it this way. I mean,
Yep.
it's there is some science behind what we do, but not enough. I mean, it's like developing a new solar array. I keep on using that as an example. It takes a lot of different trials and errors to get that array to where it needs to be in the market.
I agree.
It's no different.
And I think we should probably take a page from the playbook of engineering. Again, we both work
Yeah.
in deep tech. You should look at their project management trackers. Like, you don't get to just be like, no, we're
No.
totally on target. Everything's going great. There's no problems.
That is the number one reason why most product launches do not happen on time.
I
By the
know,
way.
but you look in there and they'll have tons of things that'll be marked as delayed, marked as, trending down, or, some things obviously are trending up, but like they don't have the luxury of, oh, well, we're just gonna slide this over here. Like, don't do that. Follow it. They own up to it. And then their team comes together to either say, okay, we need to move the launch date, or we need to do this, or we need 2 more people to jump over here and make that happen. You're never going to get the support that you need. You're never going to get the respect that you deserve if you are unwilling to ask for help and track it.
I love it.
And own it.
We don't have a lot of time left, so I want to go through this next.
Okay.
So here we could talk for hours. I do know that. We don't have hours. So you have 3 test areas that really that show how the marketing activities are aligned with the business goals, and I love these. The first one is exactly what we're talking about. Make yourself accountable.
Yes. So make yourself accountable. And I did just talk about a project tracking software. A lot of companies, especially startup scale-ups, your teams are going to be really small. Often it's just going to be you. You might be managing an external resource like strategy. So build your own system.
Yeah.
Manage your own system. Even if other people aren't checking in on you to see how things are going, own a system that is tracking yourself. It seems like it's going to be annoying, but it's so important to just make yourself accountable, if not to your company, to yourself.
Right.
Because then you know that you need to change, or that you need to pivot, or you'll know you're overrun. There's too much on your plate. You'll know when your boss comes to you and says, we're thinking about scaling up. Who do you need to hire?
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is so important. If you're not holding yourself accountable to what you thought you were going to be able to get done and what you weren't able to, or what you thought you weren't going to get done and you did get done, you're not going to be able to be successful there. So definitely I merged 1 and 2 together. So the first one is definitely make yourself accountable. Hold yourself accountable, if not to your company, to yourself. It's not to beat yourself down. It's to give yourself a benchmark.
Get better, get stronger. I mean, that's what it's all about. Yeah. And then you mentioned tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned a project management tool, but there's so many other tools outside of that really help us, equivocate what it is and effect that we're achieving each day.
So definitely, depending on what your priorities are in sort of your strategy, PR, if you're doing sort of LinkedIn, or if you're doing social media driven, definitely use tools. Make your company pay for them. Tell them you absolutely need them. But also, a good chunk of my career literally paid for these tools out of my own pocket because they helped me be able to do my job.
Yeah.
Obviously get your company to pay for them, but if you're
That's
a
how
hustler,
dedicated you are, Jen.
if you're a hustler like me, sometimes it's like, look, this is what I need to get my job done, and I know that it's going to pay off. So I definitely would tell every marketer, get a marketing monitoring tool, something that's tracking the big, big, big World Wide Web for you, because it is impossible to try and track it on your own, and really understand what is coming out. One of my favorite ones that I use, I'm not affiliated, I have nothing to do with this app, but I use brand mentions. And I check regularly the word map. This is, I think, the most important thing when you're looking at tools. Make sure that they're going to give you a word map as a part of it. Most marketers will know what that is. Some people who might not, but it basically puts together this kind of looks like a brain, all the words that have been associated with your company or whatever you're searching. So,
I love it.
so I put my company name there, and I actively track which words are being associated with our name the most. And what I do is I then go and I will do sort of an activity with my company to see, like, okay, what are our keywords? What are our strategy words that we want to have there? And I'm watching to see, are they overlapping?
Right.
Are those words getting picked up? And if they aren't, then what do we need to change in our narrative? What do we need to change
So
in
smart. Yeah.
Again,
love
these
that.
tools exist. You don't have to rewrite the book. It exists. So that's definitely my second one is use tools. And
Custom or
use tools, use them all.
yeah, exactly. And the
AI.
and if you can customize a lot of those as well, which I think is always fantastic. A customer feedback loop is the third element here.
This one is so important. And depending on the area or the industry or the sector that you work with, especially in deep tech where we have government customers, some people might have military customers, some people might have investors. It's often hard for the marketer to get in front of those people. There's sometimes that wall put up of like, no, you don't interact with customers. So either building a feedback loop that gets connected through your sales or your BD team or your account management teams, or just demanding it is so important. It is so important that you know what your customers are hearing or taking away from what you're putting out.
Gosh, I know. Talk
You
about
yeah,
potential misalignment. I mean,
exactly. And at the end
oh,
of the day, the word map is great, but that's the public. That's a reporter. That's they're selling something in their media as well as you. So they might be using skewed words. At the end of the day, you need your customers, the people that your BD teams are actively trying to get money from, to understand what you're selling. And if you have no idea of what they're feeling, understanding, taking away from it, how can you possibly support that sales cycle and support the business? It's
that
impossible.
the importance of messaging. If you don't understand that, then yeah. Oh my gosh, so many pearls of wisdom here today. This is going to be an incredible Home of the Brave newsletter, by the way, audience. So,
Oh,
what we do each week is we, of course, tape our shows, but then we write a newsletter about them as well. So, if you haven't signed up for our email or for our online newsletter, go ahead and do that at strategycast.com. And then the Home of the Brave is actually the newsletter under Lori Sartorius Jones on LinkedIn. But
okay.
before we leave today, Jen, I want to ask you a question. We launched the series Better At in January to help marketers sharpen practical skills that create meaningful outcomes, things like clarity, alignment, leadership, all those sort of things. What's one thing that you've gotten better at that's made a measurable difference in how you lead or collaborate?
Processes.
Ah, love it.
100%. I mentioned this earlier. When you're a marketer, you're often a team of one in a startup. Sometimes you're selling that you are even important to organizations. Setting into place those processes that enable you to track what you're doing and show your importance is really, really important. It's important to make sure that you are able to, I hate the word defend, but defend
Yeah.
what we're doing. We live in a world of AI. We live in a world of overseas talent that claim to be able to do our jobs. And so really putting into place these tools and these processes that prove.
I love it. That's amazing. Thank you so much. What is the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
LinkedIn, like you said, I'm very active on LinkedIn. It's a platform that I absolutely love. I feel like I can just be myself on it, which is crazy because most people are scared to do anything on LinkedIn, but it's just, yeah, the best way to contact me. Definitely you can see me around space conferences. I work with Portal Space Systems, so please come and say hi to me. I would love to tell you about what we're working on. Yeah, and thanks so much for having me on the show, Lori. This has been amazing.
My gosh, you've been amazing. Jen Scholten, thank you so much for your appearance on StrategyCast.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.